Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Okay, so we got some good stuff to look at for this week, and we will take a look here at the TNX, and this is an ETF that tracks the 10-year Treasury note yield. So what we can tell from this is last week, and I really meant to cover this last week, talk about the TNX last week, but the bond yields had one of the best starts of the year ever last week. And I just kind of watched the TNX. I'm not really much of a bond guy, but there was a lot of talk about rates towards the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. Obviously, here as we came out of the COVID crash. So this is the COVID crash, and so I am just kind of watching it as rates push higher. It does just kind of push down the value of stocks. So I am watching that. But I meant to talk about that last week, so I figured just to cover that this week. But it did just come into the 200 moving average on a weekly chart. This is because we're looking at a weekly chart. So it did just kind of hit the 200 moving average. But bonds don't move that much. So the move they made, obviously, last week, that's a pretty substantial move because they don't move that much, especially in like normal environments. They just don't move that much. It takes a pandemic to kind of get to move. But yeah, that's the TNX. So I'm kind of watching the bond yields and stuff like that. So that was something maybe to keep your eye on. But as far as the SPY, okay, so we did have pretty good selling action last week, but we did have a pretty good upper wick on a weekly candle, right? So we bounced. We went over a little bit over halfway through last week's candle for last week's action, and then sold off. And the big sell-off was Thursday, right? Thursday, if you pay attention to the markets, Thursday was the big drop this week. Really don't know what spurred it. I can't really think off the top of my head other than just people just selling. I know it was led a lot by tech, man. Tech got routed yesterday. The Qs, we'll look at here in a sec, they got absolutely hammered. But we are still in above the green line. We did break down below it a little bit on Monday and then rallied for the second half of the day on Monday. And we did get a little bit below it today and then wound up bouncing for most of the last 2.5 hours of the day. So that was pretty good move up. I don't know how much bounce is left. I really don't. So last week I did talk about how I am a little bit more bearish on the market, and not like the economy's gonna collapse and all that. I'm not about that. All I'm saying is we're just extended. If we look at a weekly chart, we're just extended to the upside. So a good pullback just kind of makes sense, and we'll probably get into the 420 to 430 to 440 area, chop around a little bit, and then break down. And what typically happens is when you get pullbacks or you go into new trends, bullish trends, is the biggest parts of the move are at the beginning and the end. Okay, so the biggest directional moves are at the beginning and the end. So and you can look back here in 2018, for example, we had a good move down, and then we just kind of chopped around, and then we pushed down even harder, faster. And that is kind of indicative of how most trends work. They're very quick in the beginning. They kind of just slowly do their thing then, and then they're quick again, and then that's kind of the end of it. But so that is something to kind of keep in mind, because I don't really think we've started so much the downtrend yet, as we're still in this uptrend. So I'm kind of saying that, and I'm cautiously saying that because we could see the rapid selling happen next week. I do think that we'll probably see it over the next 2 weeks, sometime in the next 2 weeks, but I think next week probably could happen. So if you are cautious on the market and you're just not sure, dude, I would just sit on the sideline, honestly. I bought some protection. I did buy a couple more, I guess, bearish plays just to kind of hedge other long trades I have in the portfolio. But that is something that maybe you can, if you want to look to do, take some skin off the game. It's not a problem. Like we're really close to all-time highs. And I know there's been a lot of talk about, oh my gosh, we're like, stocks got to be bottoming. And I just like look at the market and I'm like, and these are people talking about like the general stock market, like TV personalities and stuff like that. And they're like, man, with stocks are going to be close to bottoming. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they're seeing something I'm not. I know a lot of the smaller cap stuff has been hammered, like the IWM. If we look at the IWM, you know, we can see that they had a pretty good sell-off from November to kind of now. You know, they're down pretty good. You know, so there are great bargains out there. Some of the ones that pop off my head is Etsy. Right, they got hammered over the past couple of weeks. They are down like almost 50% from where they peaked out at. So if you're a fan of Etsy, man, 50% discount roughly from where it peaked out in November. Great. Shopify, also another one, is not down quite 50%, but it's down pretty substantially. Maybe it's like 40% or so. Yeah, it's down roughly 40%. So there are definitely some areas of bargains out there. Like I said, last week, Apple's been one of the stronger ones. But one of the things I wanted to talk about this week, wanted to cover is my man Marcus Baez left me this comment. He said, "No way you're this bearish." And I kind of didn't know what he meant by this bearish. I did reply back to you, but I didn't really know what you meant by this bearish. So I want to kind of address that because I kind of had two takes on it. I was like, is he talking about did I put my entire portfolio into bearish positions and expecting to move down to 400 on the SPY? And no, like I have an acronym, ABL, and if you know what ABC means, always be closing. Well, ABL means always be long. So most of my positions, long-term accounts, stuff like that, are going to be long-term. They're bullish, okay? But you got to very much buy protection when you see downside risk in areas. And right here is an area where I see that. You know, if you're asking if majority of my portfolios in puts and shorting the market, no, it's not. I actually don't like shorting the market, but I don't mind buying protection on my long-term assets. Okay, and you know I kind of do that because a lot of my long-term holdings are in the SPY, so I don't mind buying protection. Okay, but if you meant, am I this bearish by? Do I think it can go to 400? Absolutely, man. I think we can get down there, and I really do think we will. We'll probably start to sell down into the 420, 430, 440 area, chop around, and then probably sometime in maybe March, April, we'll probably flush down to 400, and maybe bottom out somewhere around there. But if we get to 400, though, like all my longs, bullish strategies, they're all going to be going fully executed and all that kind of stuff. So that is something that I'm watching. The 400, if we get down to 400, like everything be back to the bullish side for me. And we might chop around. It might chop around there for a while, so I might not make money right away, but that's where I feel comfortable getting in. So we'll look at the Qs here. And one of the things that's interesting about the Qs is it didn't hit that all-time high a couple weeks back, but we did open down on Monday like the SPY did, and it did trade higher, very much like the SPY did. And there was a lot of volume that kind of came in this week. There's more volume that came in this week as there's probably a lot of dip buyers, which is, perfectly reasonable. But as we can see, we have a longer term, right, somewhere in this area. There's like a longer term kind of trend line. Maybe from like there. I don't know, you can kind of see how the market kind of just follows this line up. And we kind of breached it then late last week, early this week, and we bounced up. We didn't close above it. So that is something very much to watch on the Qs, because Qs could probably definitely start leading us down because they have led us to the upside very much over the past 2 years. Yeah, not a big deal. I don't really have a good price level on the Qs and where they could pull back to. Maybe this 304, 305 level right here, this top, which would be kind of maybe even close to this 100. I don't think it'll get down that far. It might get down to like the 330, 320 area. That'd be my guess. It depends a lot on Apple. And one thing I'm going to show you guys on Apple is Apple was actually one of the plays that I did buy puts on, as they haven't really been performing to the downside, which could be a good or a bad. I was just kind of looking for something that hadn't done what the market's done over the past couple of days. So I figured if I could find something like that, like Apple and Tesla, they've both held up reasonably well. And so I did play both of these, actually have puts for next week. And mostly that is just to hedge other longs that I have in my portfolio. And kind of so some of my thought process behind why I did that is I was kind of looking for things that hadn't already been hammered as much. These two companies they have a big weighting on the market. So if I do think the market's going to pull down, and I have been wanting to buy some protection and buy some downside plays just to have in the portfolio, just in case we do start breaking down, I did want to do it on things that hadn't broken down already. Okay, because there is a lot of things that are out there already that's been beaten up so bad that there are things that I'm looking to start buying, and Apple and Tesla are not on that list. They have not broken down. So if we do continue to kind of sell down, if we do break down, I think Apple and Tesla will probably be the ones that people start flooding out of, as there are deals in other areas, in other industries, other companies, other stocks that I do think people could rotate out of Tesla, out of Apple, out of some other high flyers that haven't sold off as much, and into other discounted stocks. And so that's where I think Apple and Tesla could start really wind up selling down, and they'll take the market with it because they weigh a lot. Microsoft's maybe another one on the list, but I'm a little bit more bullish on Microsoft than Apple and Tesla. So that is why I did short Apple and Tesla. One thing I did want to show you though real quick on Apple is we have a super rare divergence. Okay, these divergences are pretty rare to see, and actually I just did that to the wrong one. But as you can see, the stock price from where it made the all-time high, so this is the all-time high on Apple, right? It put that in a couple weeks last week, at the beginning of last week, right? Last week. And so what we can see is we have the stochastics RSI actually go and make a higher high while the stock's making a lower low. And the MACD histogram is also making a higher high over the all-time high histogram. So we have oversold signals while the stock's making a low. These are the kinds of divergence that you want to see if you're looking for a divergence play. Okay, the kinds of divergence you don't want to see are that really kind of mean nothing, but I see a lot of people bring these up. Is basically if you reverse these and you had okay, here it is. Here's a good one. So you see how the all-time high mound and this mound, like the all-time high mound, like the stock made a higher high, but this mound is a little bit lower. Like that's a divergence, yes, but the thing about it is that basically just means the indicator here, at least on the MACD and the stochastics as well, they're just kind of normalizing while the stock is still in an uptrend. But now that we started a downtrend and these indicators have gone into like overbought territory, you know, that could mean there's some more downside. And maybe this is it, and maybe we do go back higher, but I'm not really in that camp. So, I mean, you can definitely let me know and down in the comments if you think, you know, the SPY is going to 500 or if it's going to 400 first. Let me know in the comments, or, you know, for you futures traders, if you think the S&P 500 is going to 5,000 or 4,000 first. And, you know, I'm game. Whichever way it goes, it's fine with me. I'm just seeing a lot of things not working as they used to. And obviously, we've already seen a lot of other stocks start selling off almost to where they're getting to bargainy type areas. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of what's going on going forward and how to protect yourself. But if we do get to SPY 400, yeah, all bets are off. We're going. I'll be long. Alrighty, take care, Alpha Hunters.